Welcome to the January 18th Public Works Session of the Rockville Center Board of Education. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gavin, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. We've had a busy return to school since coming back in January. I wanted to give some updates. I had the wonderful opportunity of going to the Don't Press Send presentation on social media at the middle school. That was conducted by Mrs. Schumacher. And it's a reminder to all of our parents that to have a mindful approach with your children and social media. One of the things that made an impression upon me was Mrs. Schumacher asked, how many of you play video games online? 95% of the kids' hands went up. How many of you know who you're playing with when you play online? Not as many kids' hands went up. So one of the things that we often forget is that with video game systems like Xbox and all of those things, you can play with people who may not be who they pretend to be. So it's one of the things that if you would not have your child playing video games with a 30-year-old in your basement, you may want to think about how you monitor that and how you work with that. So it was a really good reminder. I reached out to PTA representative, PTA councils as well, and we're thinking about different ways to bring in a speaker on social media for our parents. Social media, social gaming, all of those kinds of things. So that was a little eye-opening when we saw all of the sixth graders go, yep, we all do it. So just one of those things for parents to think about. We also are really excited. Dr. Moriarty has introduced a number of different 15-hour courses, not only on literacy as a follow-up to some of the things we saw in our last presentation, but also coding, and we're starting the training for VEX in robotics with our teachers, so 15-hour courses on that. I did want to address one of the questions we had from a citizen from last board meeting about our HVAC system. They had a question about whether or not the HVAC system here at the high school, the existing HVAC, could be tied into any potential expansion for the gymnasium. Mr. Bartels looked into the situation with Mr. Scalisi. It doesn't have that capability. So if we were going to air condition the gym at the high school, here at the high school, we would have to put on a new system and then tie it into the existing. So that was one of the questions that was asked. I wanted to follow up on that. A shameless plug for our athletic boosters. They have the athletic booster event on Friday, February 3rd, 7:30 at Coral House. This raises money for scholarships and honors the coaches and parents that have supported the growth and development of our Southside athletic programs. I had the wonderful opportunity to go to our IB parent orientation along with Madam President, Ms. Barry. And I have to tell you, not only was a very informative session about what our IB program does, but we had a panel of 6 students that absolutely blew me away about the connections they were making with what they were working. They were reflective, they were poised, they were intelligent, they were insightful. They had it all going on. And if you are interested in the IB program, I highly suggest, even if you don't have the parent of a 10th grader, come to the parent orientation next year, because you will learn about the important connections that kids make as a result of the program. So I wanted to thank Liz Nisler for her hard work preparing, and one of the things that we followed up on was we asked Liz Nisler to get some of the kids in and do little video interviews about what their experience was in IB. And so I checked with Dr. Walsh today. They're already doing it this week. So we should have some really cool video clips coming down the road that kind of explain what IB is, how it works, and how our kids feel about it. Really good stuff. I also then had the wonderful opportunity to go to Riverside and read with one of our 5th grade classes this week, which was a lot of fun. I know some of our board members went as well. It was a great experience. I walked in, we had a great story. We had our 5th graders, we were all there. They were really fun. But what was really interesting to me was when I walked in, they were all coding. So we had a brand new coding program that we've implemented across the district. And as part of our look at Stellar, we decided to try it in January with the 5th grade and with the 4th grade and then with the 3rd grade. And the kids were already well into it and coding. And then I happened to go into another room and I saw Mr. Eckert's class and they were coding as well. So everyone was coding at Riverside. It was great. But it goes to show, Dr. Moriarty's really led that implementation, along with our triple-headed committee that's talking about computer science, coding, and computer-assisted design. Mr. Duffy's been great with that, and really led the work of our team to implement that. And we just had a stellar meeting the other day. Was it yesterday, Nicole? Yesterday? They're all blending in. But we had a meeting yesterday, and the Stellar teachers are super excited about what the kids are already up and running and doing. And we have a little bit of a contest for our fifth grade or elementary students as a whole. We have a little bit of a contest out there. First students to get to level 18 on Maze Code, I got t-shirts for you. We have t-shirts for you. Now, I have to tell you, it took me like a weekend to beat level 18. All right, it took me like a weekend. 1 to 17, I got in like a couple days. Level 18, game on. So I just wanted to just let everyone know that there is that contest out there. I'm glad to see that the students are interested in it. It kind of matches the enthusiasm we've seen preliminarily at the high school about the idea of offering some computer science classes up here, and it's a good direction for us to go. I want to ask Ms. Love to talk a little bit about mental health and to talk about UPK.
Good evening. So we have 2 updates for the community tonight. The first is regarding our UPK program. So it's very exciting that we're starting our second year of a program that was so successful this year. We were so very excited to offer this free opportunity to our community for our students to attend preschool at the JCC in Oceanside. So for next year, we know right now that we have 101 seats available. We are pursuing and exploring additional location options at this time, but as of right now, we know we have the JCC, and if other locations are available, we'll let the parents know once they've been secured. So for right now, by tomorrow, all residents should receive a mailer with specific information about how to apply for a seat in the program. There'll also, a flyer will go out via email to all registered families in the district. And Monday morning at 9 a.m., a Google form will open. It will be posted on the district website where parents can apply for a seat in the program. And it will close on February 17th at the close of business day, and then we'll see how many applicants we have. If we are 101 or under, then everyone will be able to attend. If it's over 101, then we will hold a lottery. So that's our update for UPK. And then with regard to mental health, we have our mental health consortium, which is participants from our staff, parents, as well as some community members and administration. And we've been working very closely with the PTA Mental Health Committee to come up with some opportunities for our students and our family to receive education in how to develop and maintain positive mental health. So as we mentioned, we are holding a wellness walk on May 13th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. There'll be all types of very exciting and fun events, informative events that day. And again, that'll be a collaboration between the PTA and the Mental Health Consortium. And then date to be announced, likely in March. We will have an evening that Mr. Gavin was just speaking about. Internet and gaming safety for students will be one of the topics presented. And then the second topic will be information for parents, just general ideas and support on how to help your child develop positive strategies and, again, a positive mental health outlook and how to develop that and maintain that over time. So we'll have 2 guest speakers, and the PTA will be providing refreshments in between the 2 presentations. So again, that's a collaboration between those 2 groups. And likely the next board meeting will have a date and time for that event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Love. We have a number of presentations here tonight for the board. We'd like to call up our Community Education Program Annual Update. So for our members that are ready to go, who is leading us off tonight? Is it, thank you. Okay, come on up, Mr. Walter, and lead us off.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present about our district's community education and Project Great program offered to students and families in Rockville Center. For anyone in the audience or tuning in from home for tonight's Board of Education meeting that may not know me, my name is Eric Walter, and I am the principal of Riverside School and the administrator in charge of community education and Project Great. I want to begin by thanking the Board of Education, our superintendent of schools, and all of the central office administrators for your continued support of these valuable programs and opportunities we are able to offer. It is my pleasure to work alongside two amazing leaders that plan, manage, facilitate, and help supervise these very important programs, Mr. Christopher D'Ambrosio, Director of Community Education, and Ms. Nicole Giganti, Coordinator of Project Great. I also want to take a moment to recognize and thank our Community Education Secretary, Ms. Amy Abbey, and all of our teachers and staff who work for these various programs. We have an amazing team. I thank Mr. D'Ambrosio and Ms. Giganti for being here tonight to give this presentation to the Board of Education and our Rockville Centre School community at large. After the first presentation, our summer school principal, Mr. Keith Eckert, and summer pre-K coordinator, Mr. Christopher Zappia, will be showcasing various enrichment opportunities available to our students throughout the summer. They are incredible leaders, amazing advocates for children, and I thank them for joining us here this evening too. I would now like to introduce Ms. Nicole Giganti, coordinator of Project Great, to begin tonight's presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Gavin, Board of Education, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight about the Project Great program. My name is Nicole Giganti. I am the director of Project Great. Project Great is a before and after school program. It's available in all 5 elementary schools. It is open from 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. every day that school is open. I am lucky to be in my 3rd year as director. I'm also a 2nd grade teacher at Wilson Elementary for the past 16 years. I've had a great deal of experience with Project Great because I was also coordinator at Wilson for 10 years. Project Great has recently grown back to its pre-COVID numbers. We had lost some enrollment as COVID parents began to work from home. Our before and after school programs offer our children a safe and nurturing environment where students can play, have a snack, and get their work done. We're blessed to have the support of Eric Walters, our director, and I want to thank Christine Ambrosio for everything he does for community education. The person who's most vital to our program is our secretary, Amy Abbey. She helps to register each and every student who attends Project Great. Every day, she is a delight to work with, and she has settled in very well in the Rockville Centre Schools. We are grateful for her support. Tonight, I would like to give you an overview of the 2021-2022 school year. Okay. So, yep, good. First, LEO is our online registration and billing system that we initiated in 2020. This program has made registering for Project Great, ACE, Regents Review, and Summer Pre-K seamless as it saves families information from one child to the next. LEO allows Project Great parents to select their schedules, make changes right from their app. They can manage their accounts, their balances, and invoices. Our coordinators at each of the 5 sites also have access to the students' information and emergency contacts. The goal of the Project Great program is to make the process flexible and easy for our parents to use. They can enroll for 1 day a week, set schedules throughout the month, and they can use a drop-in day if they need to last minute. We offer our families a discount for multiple children attending at once. LEO eliminates paperwork and simplifies our registration process. Our morning AM Great runs in all 5 elementary schools. Students can arrive as early as 7 a.m. They have a healthy breakfast, they can play and socialize. Our PM program, the students come immediately from their classrooms. There are 2 sessions, 3:30 to 5 and 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. These sessions work out well for parents' schedules. The children are given homework support in the afternoon, they eat a healthy snack, and they have an opportunity to play organized games. Our program in the afternoon also has access to all of our new playgrounds, our new fields, and gyms. The Homework Helpers program is where we welcome our middle school and high school kids back to Project Great. Many of them have went to Project Great themselves. Our older children can use these hours for their honor society commitment or their community service hours. The younger children idolize the big children when they come, and they learn to have patience with little ones. It's a win-win for everyone. In conclusion, our numbers for last year show an increase in enrollment as we finished off some low COVID years, as I previously stated. 2 years ago, we had enrollment of 150 students. Last year, we had 223. I'm happy to report that currently our program is well over 300 students this year. Families have flocked back to Project Great this year. Our numbers are higher than ever. Parents are excited to have their children back in the program socializing, and they are thriving emotionally. Thank you for your time. I'd like to introduce Christy Ambrosio.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, good evening. My name is Christy Ambrosio. I'm the Director of Community Education, which oversees adult education, Winter ACE, and Regents Review. These programs would not be possible without support of the board, central administration, and Eric Walter, the administrator in charge of community education. Eric and I work closely together in designing the programs to make sure they suit the needs of the community. I always appreciate his guidance and insight. A lot of work and collaboration goes into putting these programs together. Without this collaboration, it wouldn't be possible. There are many moving parts. I'd like to thank Carol Rosetto for assisting with the calendar and having the fitness center and gyms available for our use, the secretaries in the administrative building that help with the hiring of our teachers and high school students, Carol Vitelli for organizing the room reservations, the custodial staff for taking care of our classrooms and buildings before and after each program, security for their presence in our buildings, and all the principals for going above and beyond and having their buildings available to us. And of course, Amy Abbey, the Secretary for Community Education. She has all the answers at her fingertips and usually has them before I finish my sentence. She wears many hats during the day. She works on Adult Ed, Winter ACE, Regents Review, Project Great, and all of the summer programs. She is remarkable, and we're lucky to have her. Okay, so the first program that I'd like to speak about is Winter ACE. Winter ACE gives children in grades K through 8 opportunities to explore interests and have fun while developing talents and skills. One of the things that I really like about the program is that kids are grouped by interests that they choose from across the district. So kids from Riverside will be with kids from Covert, and it builds and fosters friendships. And one of the ways that you build friendships are on common interests. So kids that are into art and painting are together. Kids that are with science and coding are together. And they get to meet kids from all over the neighborhood. So it's a really valuable program. It's held at Southside Middle School for 6 Saturdays, going from January to March, from 9 to 11. And they need to enroll in 2 one-hour classes. We made a little bit of a change a couple of years ago, and it's starting to pick up coding, because the coding class is for grades 5 through 8, and we usually struggle with getting kids to sign up for Winter ACE in those older age groups because of sports that they're enrolled in. So we had coding as a 1-hour class, but we had to cancel it because we didn't have enough students enrolled. But we decided to make it a 2-hour class. And now we're up to 13 6th through 8th graders enrolled in the coding class. So so it was a good adjustment that we made. So some of the classes we offered last year are coding with this robot called Q. We had Science, Drama Kids, which is a program offered in the community. So art, cooking classes, fitness, poetry, and reading. So you could see ACE in 2020, we had 172 kids enrolled. That was right before COVID. That was our biggest year. Then in 2021, we only had 39 students enrolled. We had to cancel the program because of all the changes we had to make because of the COVID restrictions. Last year was the first year back. And we came back a little bit with 77 students enrolled, but this year I'm happy to say we're at 162. So we're almost back to where we were in 2020. We're offering 3 different science classes this year. We have a class Fun with Science, we have Lego robotics, and we have a slime class. So I'm sorry, moms out there watching that are enrolled in the slime class, but so they're going to be doing slime 6 sessions. Okay, the next program that I'd like to talk about is Regents Review. So this gives high schoolers and middle schoolers an opportunity to review material covered on Regents exams with certified teachers. We usually look for teachers within the district first, and then we'll go to OLAS looking for teachers to fill in any gaps that we might have. Last year was a unique year because that was the first time we offered the program for free. We were able to use COVID monies to cover the cost. And it was done on a lottery system where parents were able to sign up online, and then we assigned kids numbers, and then we used a Google number picker to randomly pick students to enroll in the classes. So we had 628 students enrolled in person, and then we needed more classes, so we went to online with a company called iTutor, and we had 91 students registered virtually. So because it was offered for free, and we were anticipating large numbers because it was the first Regencies since COVID, we tried to provide as many review classes as we can. So you can see on the board we had 4 Algebra 1 classes, Algebra 2 Algebra 2 classes, 6 chemistry classes, and so on. I don't want to read them all, but they're right there. And then we also offered, these classes were offered after school beginning at 6 o'clock in the evening. And then we also offered Spanish and language classes during the day right after school. So we were trying to offer it at different times. Okay, so each class met for 10 sessions. The language classes met after school, like I just stated, and there were 628 students enrolled in the review classes. Adult education. So adult education is a great way for community members to get together. With such busy lives that we have today with work and taking kids here and there, this is a great way for parents to disconnect, come to the school, and meet other adults in the neighborhood, and also make new friendships. So we meet for 6 sessions, and the classes range in time depending on the teacher offering the class. Our big ones were mahjong, dance. We had some financial classes. A computer class was another big one, and we have a nice cooking class that people like to register for, and the cooking class we have at the middle school. So for 2020, the 2019-2020 school year, the fall session was the last one we had with 90 people registered. Spring was canceled, and then we came back last year with 57 people in the fall, spring, and 41 in the spring. This year, this fall, we're at 128 residents registered. We have a tap class that was brand new, and I wasn't expecting too many people, so we needed a wood floor, so it had to be a stage. So we were looking at Covert, and then we had 30 people sign up. So if you've ever been to Covert, the auditorium is too small. So Ms. McGinn offered the gym, so we were at the middle school, which I'm very thankful for. And we had to move from there over to Mr. Raymar's building to finish off the program. So there's a lot of teamwork with the principals that I appreciate. And the tap class, interesting, the youngest person was 24 and the oldest was 91. The tap class. It was great. I was able to hang out for a few minutes and watch. It was a lot of fun. And that concludes community education. And I'd like to introduce Chris Zappia.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Central Administration, and Rockville Center community. Before I speak about the 2002 summer program, I just want to offer my thanks for the opportunity to serve as the coordinator this past summer. I'd especially like to thank Ms. Love, Mr. Eckert, and Ms. Abby, our community ed secretary, for all of their support and guidance during both the implementation process, the supervision process of the program, as well as the planning process. It's a lot of planning involved. In addition, I'd like to thank all of the families of our current kindergarten students who participated in the program for their support and cooperation. I hope that all of our kindergarten students are having a wonderful and successful school year. It was a pleasure to watch them come into the program each and every day, to see how happy they were to be in the program, to see their teachers, like Ms. Giganti, and to see all their friends and watch them foster these wonderful new relationships. They were so happy about attending the pre-K program. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the entire summer pre-K staff, from our teachers, our aides, our nurse, school psychologist, speech teacher, security personnel, custodial staff, high school workers, and volunteers. Everyone played a key role in creating a nurturing and loving environment for our students, our newest students, as they attended Rockville Center Public Schools for the very, very first time. I always say that first impressions are everything, and I'm confident that our staff, together as a team, created a lasting impression for our students as well as our Rockville Center families. So I thank them for that. All right. Now on to the presentation. So the summer pre-K program serves as a wonderful stepping stone, as I mentioned, for our incoming students as they prepare for their kindergarten experience come September. Our group of nurturing teachers and staff implement a curriculum that focuses on kindergarten readiness skills in the areas of reading and writing, listening and language, number awareness, fine and gross motor development, as well as provides opportunities for social and emotional development. Students enjoy time spent on the playgrounds or in the gym playing games focused on cooperation and fair play. In addition to developing lasting friendships, students experience what it means to be a valued member of a school community, which is super important. It's their first experience in the buildings. Student enrollment. You'll see Covert had 27 students, Watson had 9, Wilson 41, Hewitt 34, Riverside 8, St. Agnes with 12, and we even had 2 out-of-district students as well, for a total of 133 students enrolled, which was really nice to see. We have lots of special events and activities to keep the kids busy. We have thematic Thursdays where you'll see me running around with a crazy hat or crazy hair. We have sports day, pajama day. It's a lot of fun. The kids get really amped up about it. Bubble Creation Day. This is Ms. Giganti's, one of her big specialties, where, and this really, you know, talks to the dedication of our teachers. I didn't ask them to do this. They came together and decided to, for each class, create bubble solution from scratch with their students, take them outside and create a wonderful learning experience for all of them. It's amazing, and I'll have some pictures that I'll be able to show you too. I was really happy. This was the first year where, first year where we were able to actually visit the Rockville Center Public Library instead of just zoom them in. So you'll see some pictures of the kids on the school bus. What an experience for them. It was their first experience on a field trip, and just getting to meet people in their community. And they had an opportunity to get a library card if they didn't already have one. Fire Safety Day, we had our South Hempstead Fire Department come and visit Covert School with their fire truck this year, and they even were able to do a little gym presentation where firefighter spoke to the students about fire safety, showed him his uniform and all the components of it, really taught kids about fire safety and not to be scared in an emergency. And then we had a virtual visitors day where parents were able to Zoom in, actually Google Meet in, and see their children in their classrooms using the theme, Under the Sea theme, where they had different poems and readings and gave little talks about, and got to show their artwork for all things under the sea. That's our theme for the summer. And here's some pictures of Fire Safety Day with the South Hempstead Fire Department. We're always so gracious for them and their time. Bubble Day fun. You can see all the kids having a great time on the front lawn of Covert School. Here's our Under the Sea. We even had a Shark Week, which was pretty cool. Coincide with Shark Week over the summer. Kids were pretty psyched about that. And then here's our Rockville Center Library field trip. And, special shout out to Jen Marino over at the Rockville Center Public Library, who's so accommodating for us. And here's just kids having a great time socializing. They're able to play outside on the playground. There's lots of craft activities and opportunities for them. And we even make great use of the gym and the equipment in the gym as well. And we somehow fit all of this into 3 hours during one day. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over the mic to Mr. Keith Eckert. Thank you very much.
Just click it forward out, right? Let me just fix it so I'm not as tall as everybody. Good evening, everybody. Keith Eckert, Summer Program Principal. Just to kind of echo what has already been said, just want to thank the Board of Education, Ms. Love, Central Administrators, Building Administrators, the community for supporting the summer program, the absolutely amazing summer program staff that takes the time and energy to plan a really nice, enriching program for everybody. Mr. Zappi, our pre-K coordinator. Ms. Brenner couldn't be here tonight, Alyssa Brenner. She was our middle school, high school Regents Review coordinator. She kind of got thrown to the fire in the program, and she really hit the ground running. This was our first time we kind of had Regents come back, and it was a lot of head-scratching for everybody, and Ms. Brenner did an amazing, amazing job. I definitely want to thank Ms. Liz Pryke, Brian and Scott, the custodial staff over at Hewitt. I know they don't love the summer program in their building, but I thank them very much for allowing us to be in there. And you've heard the name Amy Abbey all night long. If you've ever registered for anything through Elio or Project Grade or anything like that, you've spoken to Amy, and she is just an absolute gem in the district. And we would not be able to do any of the amazing things we've been talking about all night without the help of Amy. Our summer enrollment is up on the board there, so we were down a little bit, and kind of just after talking to some families throughout the school year and kind of last summer, one of the reasons we've kind of found the enrollment went down is as the COVID restrictions and life has sort of returned back to normal, a lot of families elected to kind of take those summer vacations that they haven't had in a while. So our impression this year is our numbers will kind of come back up. Our bridge program was about the same amount as always. Those are students that are identified as kind of needing a little extra support in preparing for 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade. So that's for our rising students. They take a math class, they take an ELA class, and then they have sort of like a fun STEM class that they take. Our middle school repeater course, that's our middle school remediation, and then our Regents Review for the high school. So the enrollment is up there. Everything was kind of very similar to what it was in the past. Our tuition, we did not change the price last year. We're not changing the price this year, but $420 for our in-district residents, $495 for our out-of-district residents. You'd pay one price, and you would pick 3 different classes. You would take a 9 o'clock class, a 10 o'clock, and then an 11 o'clock, and those classes range from any kind of academic, mental health. We had a great self-esteem class that Ms. Denise Cabas, one of our elementary guidance counselors, put on. We had a lot of sports themed classes. Arts and craft was a big hit, and then, of course, we had our technology classes. There was no cost for our bridge program, no cost for our middle school repeater, and no cost for our Regents Review. So our teaching staff totals, we had 52 teachers this year. That was up a little bit from last year. Last year we were at 49 altogether. It was 8 sections of pre-K, which is the same as last year. It's kind of like the number we try to hit is around 8 sections for pre-K. Our middle school, our bridge, our high school, all relatively the same. In high school, there were 8 separate classes that were taught for the Regents Review. Algebra 1, geometry, earth science, and living environment. We broke up into multiple sections just because there were kids that need to take multiple classes or just because the amount of students that were in those classes. Our support staff, again, everything was very similar to last year. This takes into account our aides, our teaching assistants, our students that needed one-on-one support or sometimes a 2-to-1 model in terms of just helping them out in the summer. Our paid high school workers are on there. I want to thank all of the high school students that apply every year. We do our very, very best to hire as many as we possibly can, but there is just honestly not enough positions available, so we try to keep it as fair as possible when the students start to apply for the high school positions, the paid or the volunteer. We start hiring with our seniors at first, and then we move kind of to our juniors and to our sophomores, and if there's any spots left, it'll be sort of our freshmen. And that's honestly the best way we can do it. That's the fairest way, so the idea is if the freshman students aren't getting selected that year, that they know kind of moving forward that they will start to get higher and higher priority. And then some of our most popular courses that we had Fashion Fun in the Sun, our Kinder Club, so that's kind of almost mirrors what Mr. Zappi was talking about, but that's more for our exiting kindergartners, our rising first graders. Mad Science, Perfectly Pinterest, robotics, soccer, summer photo fun, tennis, and then our new courses were all at the end of every summer. I put a survey out to all of our families that were in the program, and I just say, what did you like this year? What would you like to see next year? And heading into last summer, the responses from the community is they wanted more arts and crafts. So some of the classes we added were acrylic painting. Mrs. D'Ambrosio recommended a fantastic painter, Miss Bonnie O'Connor, that did that class, hands-on art. So we had Miss Lamoureux, who's an art teacher at the high school, taught that. I mentioned the self-esteem boat, crafty kids. We had RVC coding, which was again kind of like piggybacking over what was offered in Winter ACE, and then summer intramural. So the community also was looking for more kind of athletic-themed classes. And then our middle school remediation, those are just sort of the numbers of how many students that came to the program, whether they passed or failed. Any student that was struggling either in the middle school or in the high school program, the first step was that the teacher would call home and just say, you know, Mrs. So-and-so, here's what's happening. Your child needs to have better attendance, has to be completing their work, do the best of their ability. You know, the teachers are willing to help the students make up the work as best they can. And then when that doesn't have changed, then Ms. Brenner or even myself would be calling the parents and sort of following up as kind of like, hey, we just had this conversation. We're here. We need to kind of get our work done. And then our Regents Review remediation is up there. Again, same thing. If a student was not completing the work to the best of his or her ability, not attending or struggling, you know, phone calls were made home so parents were aware. There was no surprises sort of at the end of the summer about whether or not someone was able to succeed in the class. And then our last slide, which can kind of be a little confusing because they had the waiver, the state put out the waiver for the Regents last year, which I'm sure has been talked about many, many times. If a student had a 65 or above and then scored on the Regents 50 to 64, with the help of their guidance counselor, they could apply for a waiver and then essentially get a passing score on the Regents. And that waiver is still in effect for this upcoming June. And Dr. Mariah and I are actually talking about it today, as well as this August. So again, the Regents will be kind of like a little confusing this year, but with the help of the guidance department over at the high school, we're navigating that. And just kind of some pictures from our summer program. We have environmental art on the top left there with Miss Sarah Huser. She did a lot of great stuff where the students went outside. They looked at some different pieces of artwork in nature, and then they kind of recreated it. Fashion Fun on the top right. They do tie-dye day, which is a fantastic fun day. The kids all get to come home with a tie-dye shirt. We have some photography photos on the outside there on the bottom corners, and that was done by Miss Rizowski, who's at the middle school, who teaches in the technology departments there. Games of strategy, Mad Science on the top right, our Kinder Club down there. We had a cheerleading class that was added this summer, which was a lot of fun. The girls really enjoyed that. And then yoga is always very, very popular. Outdoor discovery. My son took outdoor discovery. He loved it. Anybody out there whose kids love to go outside and look under rocks and find worms and bugs and all sorts of things like that, that's Mr. Monsi's class. He loves it. Robotics, and then tennis as well. And then kind of here on the last slide, just some dates and information to keep in mind moving forward into this summer. Our summer program dates are going to be July 3rd through August 3rd. Obviously, we'll be closed on July 4th. The pre-K flyers Mr. Zappia has made available, as the elementary buildings have kind of had that assigned day for kindergarten registration. Mr. Zappia has also put together a really nice slideshow that sort of plays on loop, so as parents come in and register, they can kind of get that flyer in hand about pre-K, in our summer pre-K, and then they can kind of see like a running slideshow about some of the activities, some of the things they've been doing. For our K to Enrichment program, our brochure we're aiming to have out kind of like early to mid-March. And then registration would sort of open right after spring break again, sort of mid-April. That's kind of what we did last year. Everything's registered online through LEO. We are doing a digital brochure again that we've always done in the past that gets e-blasted to the whole community a couple weeks before registration opens, again right before registration opens, and then as registration kind of is ongoing. And then our high school worker applications, that'll be about mid-March, and we'll hope to have those acceptance letters out kind of early in April, and every student that applies gets a letter saying thank you for applying, you have a position, or thank you so much, we'll consider you in the future. And one kind of slight change that we're making to the summer program this year is in the past, we allowed our kind of rising ninth graders, so our current eighth graders, to be volunteers. And we have found just the last few years, Miss Abby and I just kind of looking at the applications, is we actually turn away more ninth graders than eighth graders. So the thought was to kind of just take our middle school students out of it, and then we're going to open up volunteer positions for our current ninth graders. And we're actually thinking that we're going to have a lot more opportunities to have more high school students in. Because as I was saying, a lot of those ninth grade students will be applying for a position. We just didn't have any more paid positions available because there's only so many classes. So again, we were turning away more ninth graders than eighth graders in the past year. So that's something that we are kind of making that change moving forward. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. A couple comments. The first two numbers definitely struck me. The first number is 4 years old, and the second number is 91 years old. So we have developed comprehensive programs in partnership with the community, whether you are a child that is about to enter our district to a community resident that is interested in tap dance. And that goes a long way with making us a community organization of and for the community. So I appreciate the work of each and every one of you and all of the people that you mentioned. I was there on Bubble Day. It was awesome. It was really awesome. I was also there at Hewitt, and Mr. Doris was trying to get everything ready on the last day. So I very much understand and appreciate all the work that everyone has done, and I know that each one of you has done a tremendous amount to coordinate that effort along with all the people. When we talk about how many different needs were being met and minds were being enriched there, I was really excited about that. So thank you very much for your work, and I'm sure if we have any questions or comments, you'd like to turn over.
Yes, thank you, each of you, for being here and presenting to us tonight. Each of your programs, as Mr. Gavin stated, plays a very important role for our students and our parents and our community members. One of the consistent themes that I heard from each of you was that you're listening to the needs and desires of our students and our community members and trying to be adaptive and flexible and making sure that we're continuing to serve the needs of our community each year. So thank you very much. Do any board members have any comments or questions?
Just thank you.
Yeah.
I might just say also thank you, and I think that what we're seeing and what I heard many of you say is that the levels of enrollment and registration have returned, and that is certainly a vote of confidence on behalf of the Rockville Center Schools parents and families who turn to these programs for both enrichment and childcare in some sense, and so thank you for giving us a program that parents and families feel so confident in enrolling their children. So thank you.
Anyone else?
I just had a couple of questions, just really more so about like access issues or questions for some of these programs. Are we still intending on offering the Regents classes for free again this year for all students?
The Regents Review or
Yeah,
the Regents?
Regents Review classes.
The Regents Review, we're talking about a number of different things. One of the things we found is that when we offered Regents Review for free, we had a lot of people register, we overstaffed it, and then kids didn't show up consistently. Is that accurate, guys, for the Regents Review? So we're trying to come up with some sort of fee that would be enough where people feel like they have some skin in the game for the kid to show up, but at the same time offers no barrier to entry. So that's one of the conversations we're having, and we're always willing to work with any family about sliding scales for how that would work.
Okay. And then my other question regarding Regents Review, if I heard right, the classes are generally offered in the evening from 6 to 9?
Some are right after school for language, and then some are at 6 o'clock, right, guys? That's where it starts, usually for after practices, right? Right after most of the practices for the kids.
Now, for the student who might not have access to transportation to come back at 6 o'clock for a class, how do we work with that student to ensure that they have access to these programs?
One of the things I know that the high school does is they have outreach with our social workers so that we try to work on a number of different ways that students can access those classes if need be. We have in the past, for different types of activities, I don't know specifically for this one, but for different types of activities, we've sent the bus around to try to make sure kids get back. That could be something that we look at in the future, even if we have not done that yet this year.
Yeah, I would appreciate looking into
No
that,
problem.
just to ensure that the students can get back. And then my last question was with the summer pre-K and enrichment, both of which also have a fee. You know, I appreciate the fact that we offer these programs for students, they're so valuable, but I would hate to think that enrichment is only available to students whose parents can afford it. So are there options for students whose parents cannot afford those programs for them to attend as well?
I think what we've always been, go ahead, Keith, if you
I
want
was just
to.
going to, we offer a scholarship. Every building gets a certain amount of scholarships. We kind of do it by a sliding scale based on size. So obviously, Riverside was smaller, so there's not as many scholarships necessarily available versus like a Hewitt or a Wilson. And the other thing we do, Mr. Raymar and the Raymar's Children Fund has funded some scholarships. We have a lot of times where parents will reach out to us and say, I can't pay the full amount, I can pay X amount of dollars, and we're very fortunate that we're able to pick it up. I know for the pre-K program, we offer almost an endless amount of scholarships for students that have no pre-K experience. So when those registrations come in through the help of Ms. Love's office and then the social workers in all the buildings, we contact those families and we just say to each family that don't have any pre-K experience or any kind of like nursery experience, we let them know about our summer pre-K program and then just kind of help sort of merge that gap. So there's lots of opportunities for scholarships available for families that can't afford.
I think that's a consistent theme about a lot of our opportunities is that our district works really well with our families to have personal conversations about what they can and cannot do, and we always try to find a way to work with them. Because we're not trying to make money a barrier to either enrichment, we're not trying to make money a barrier to co-curricular or extracurricular activities, whatever those are. I think that's a theme that I think we'll see, and we have seen all throughout the district.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Tara, I think Tara.
Thank you all. All the programs are great, and I love that so many people are involved in all of these programs, especially our high schoolers and middle schoolers, volunteers. So thank you all for your hard work. I had a couple of questions about Project Great. You mentioned drop-in day. That's a slightly different or newer the last couple of years, I think. We used to have a 10-pack kind of thing where people didn't have to commit to a whole semester, a whole year of the program, but the drop-in day to me was such a great thing.
Yes, we just started the drop-in day. It works out much better for the parents. 10 packs were kind of bought in advance, and then some people weren't using the 10 pack, so it was like refunded money. So it just works out better, and it seems to be like when a parent knows last minute, they can just drop them in. They don't have to sign up for like the whole month and be pre-registered.
That's what I was going to ask. So if a parent finds themselves in this situation, because I think it's good for them to know it's available to them at every building, if they find themselves in this position, what should they do to register their child? Because I imagine there's some things you need to know about the child that's coming.
Yes. So the LEO program is great because if they already have an established account, they can drop in at any moment.
Okay.
We do prefer that there's 24-hour notice because we have such large numbers at all our Project Great sites that we need enough staffing to help assist the kids.
Okay.
But basically, with 24 hours notice, we let the buildings know that the child is to go to Project Great after school or before school, and they are using the drop-in, and it's a wonderful
It really
addition.
is. I have to say, I think the parents probably really appreciate that, and the ones that don't know about it, I think we should, promote that. I think it's a
Absolutely,
wonderful,
yeah.
really
And our
big
Project
help.
Great program, just side note, gives out scholarships to many of our neediest families, and we work with many families to make sure they have before and after school care.
Thank you so much. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I have one more question for you,
Yes.
too. I love the homework helpers as well. How do the high schooler students
So
get
we-
involved in that?
We have counselors, the guidance counselors at the high school who offer it to the children directly, and then they contact me, and I source them out to the buildings most children like to go back to the buildings that they went to elementary school.
Yep.
And they know the teachers, so we try to get them back into the buildings where they grew up and where they know the facilities. But the high school students are phenomenal with the children. And it turns out to be that some kids really just start to like to come, even without it counting as hours.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Again, I love how we're kind of bridging all of our kids, giving back and
Yeah.
working with our little ones. So thank you. Those were my questions about Project Great. And I love all the programs you have going, Mr. D'Ambrosio. I think it's so exciting. I might show up at TAP class one day. Thank you both for the summer work that you guys are doing, Mr. Zappi and Mr. Eckert and Mr. Walter. Thank you very much. I just love seeing the numbers grow, like Dr. Downing said. It's really exciting. Thank you.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Yeah.
With the adult ed, some of the classes were so successful that a lot of the adults asked to run it again over the winter, because our adult ed programs run in the spring and fall and the spring. And so last year we had a fitness class and a painting class run in the winter months because people enjoyed it so much. And this year we had our TAP class, that I was talking about, was so successful, and that's going to be picking picking up again this winter as well.
So nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Better get your shoes.
I have shoes.
One of the things, again, thank you everyone for your comprehensive work. And what you see here is, again, we're working with our families to address need when we have and to expand opportunity when we can. And I think that's really the key thing that each one of you has done in a really comprehensive way. You know, as several of our board members said, I think it's so important that our older students work with our younger students. We saw that with our kindergarten project, how much the older students actually got out of it, as opposed to, you know, the younger guys got a great deal out of it, but so did the older students. So I love that. And again, it just reinforces the strong nature of community, and this community in particular. And I think what we're hearing, if you look at the numbers after COVID, after a few years of COVID, we're back. We are full on in gear 5, ready to go with all of our programs. So thank you very much, everyone. And if you'd like, you should make your exit now before we get to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Night.
Good night.
Our next presentation is not filled with as many pictures, but is certainly exciting. Certainly exciting. I would like to introduce Mr. Bartels, and he's going to talk a little bit about our budget introduction to the process, and then our tax cap calculation. Mr. Bartels.
Thank you, Mr. Gavin. We're still a little early in the budget process, still finalizing some things on the budget, but we did want to update you on to where we are and kind of where we are in our financial process. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about the budget schedule, financial health of the school district, where we are kind of with fund balance and reserves. Talk a little bit about a budget history, and then kind of go through a brief description of the tax cap calculation, because that's always a confusing issue for a lot of people. So as far as the budget schedule goes, we always start in the fall. We get the input from all the different buildings, the principals, directors, and other administrators. We put together a preliminary budget. We go over that this month with the superintendent. We are now finalizing details. Today's the first public presentation, and we're beginning to discuss that. On February 15th, we'll go into more detail. I'll have our initial budget number, where we are, where we hope to be. And we'll talk about administration, benefits, and capital at that meeting. On March 9th, we'll begin the budget discussion and talk about curriculum and PPS budgets. We're going to be talking about staffing all along the way. That's probably not going to be finalized until March 23rd, towards the end of it, as we continue to look at our staffing, get enrollments in. Kindergarten registrations are a big issue, so we continue to work with those, but we're going to do music and the arts and phys ed and athletics on March 23rd. On April 18th, we have our preliminary budget hearing. That is the last time that we can make changes to the budget. We'll kind of go over the summary of where we are. We should be pretty much finalized at that point, but that's the last time that we can actually make changes to the budget. May 3rd is a formal budget hearing that's required by the state. We cannot make any budget changes at that time. And then May 16th will be the election and the budget vote. So in terms of our financial health, we've been doing much better over the last few years. Again, we keep talking about COVID, but COVID caused us to shut down a number of our operations, and we didn't provide as many services. And at the end of 1920 and during 2021, so you can see how we were able to pick up money in those 2 years. Going back 10 years to 2012-13, for a number of years, we were fairly consistent in where we were in our fund balance. Now, I have 3 sections there. At the bottom, the yellow is what we call our applied fund balance. That's the $2.8 million that you hear me talk about every year. That's how much we try to get back from our budget. So every year in the budget, we try to save money. We budget a little extra for contingencies, depending on special ed placements, transportation, so forth. We try to hold back about $2.8 million through that and through revenues, which is another side of this budget. So if we have more revenues than we had budgeted, that goes towards that $2.8 million as well. The green section is our undesignated fund balance. That is typically what the state refers to as the 4% maximum, that school districts can't have more than 4% of their budgets in that particular area. Ours has kind of varied year to year depending on how much we've allocated for the reserves. The reserves are the blue section, and that is what we've really been trying to build up. It's worked out well for us for retirement system contributions. We have employer contributions that we need to make to the retirement system, so we've built up those reserves. That's helped out a great deal. But when you look at it, you can see over the last few years, we're much higher in fund balance than we were over the previous years. So we were just a little under 12 million for about 7 years in a row. And then for those last several years, we've jumped up. So we're up around 15 million. I have that circled kind of in that last piece. So we were trying to figure out, is there something we can do with that funding? We've been talking about different capital projects. We don't want to impact the taxpayer, so this may be a way where we can do some things, some capital projects. It would increase the budget, but would not increase the taxes. And it's something that we can only use it for one time. So this is not like a recurring amount of money, because once we use it, it's gone. We then have to try to build those levels back up again. So the only thing we can really use it for is a one-time expenditure. So we're talking about that through the budget process and how we may want to use that. A budget history, again, going back 10 years, you can see it has changed. It kind of follows a little bit the way the tax levy cap goes. So the budget increase is a little higher than the tax levy. No, back. So,
It was an exhale.
there's an extra. Yeah, I was late on my page. So we have the tax cap, typically people hear 2%. The tax cap is not 2%. The way the tax cap calculation works, and I'll go over that in a minute, is the 2% max is a piece of that calculation. So depending on other parts of the budget, mostly payments in lieu of taxes and debt service and how that relates, that will change what our actual tax cap limit is. It's not necessarily the 2% that people keep hearing. But you can see our taxes and our budgets will change, but we have barely hit the 4% a couple of times on the budget, but so we've been kind of lower on that than we have been in prior years. No, change. So as far as the actual tax cap calculation, basically how it works is you start with your prior year tax levy, you multiply it by a tax-based growth factor. What that is a number given to us by the state. It's supposed to be how much the assessment base within Rockville Center has grown over the past year. Typically, it's a very small number, maybe 1/10 of 1% or 2/10 of 1%. This year, it's going to be 0. So they have us as 0 tax growth for next year. So prior year tax levy becomes the tax levy that we start with for next year. We add back our prior year pilots or payments in lieu of taxes, which is about $1.5 million. So we get that from businesses and facilities that are off the tax rolls, but they pay an amount in lieu of taxes to the district. We then subtract prior year exemptions. The exemptions, as I mentioned, really is based on how much capital work we have in the budget, and that's comprised of any transfer to capital that we have for capital projects this year, debt service on older capital projects in the bonds we issued a number of years ago, and then there's an offset based on how much building aid we get. So that combination for last year was about $3.1 million. So that brings us down to an adjusted prior year levy of $100,176,000. That's where we then multiply by the 2% cap. So this year, the CPI was well above 2% for the prior year. I used the January to January CPI, so we're much higher than that, so it's capped at 2%, and that's where that cap comes in. In prior years, it's been lower. It's been as low as 0.1%. So this year is one of the highest years for that increase. So after we multiply by the 2%, we go back, we subtract out our pilot payments, which are additional revenues that we're getting from the community. We add back any capital exemptions that are projected for next year. And that brings us to our tax levy limit. So for this year, it looks like it's going to be 2.04%, so it's pretty close to that too, but a little bit higher than that. We're expecting to be a little bit less than that. We want to keep it under 2%, so right now we're looking at a 1.99% tax increase for next year, which would be under the tax cap, so we're not going to be looking to burst that tax cap anymore. That's it. Questions?
Questions from the board at this point?
What would, we normally have a sense of like what we would put, because the capital improvements is not in the tax cap, it's not in the levy, right? So if we weren't going to take from the reserves, what would an estimate amount of money that we could put in capital improvements be this year? Last year it was like 1.8 million.
We would be right around that same
Same.
amount, $1.82 million. That would be it, and we wouldn't take anything from the reserves
Okay.
to fund that.
Okay,
So if we're looking at adding more than that, then that's where we're really looking at taking from reserves.
okay, thank you.
I wonder, have there been any substantial changes to the pilots, the payments in lieu of taxes, or do those tend to stay stable year to
No,
year?
they've been stable. We continue to watch for some that may drop off. That's, one of the worries that we do have. But the last couple that kind of were ending got extended, so we really don't have anything dropping off, and we're getting a little bit more each year. So every year, they creep up a little bit, probably by $50,000 a year. We get a little bit more each year in those pilot payments, which does help, and it offsets the taxes that people have to pay because it's an additional source of revenue. It's part of that revenue budget.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Bartels.
Thank you, Mr. Bartels. I will say for the board that Mr. Bartels is completely thorough. He is all over every single number, and it's been a lot of fun working with him to prepare, our next stages for the budget. And he has a great deal of knowledge that you can see that he has put to good use on behalf of the taxpayer and balancing the needs of the school district at the same time. So, well done. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Our last and final presentation of the evening, I'd like to ask Mr. John Murphy to come to the microphone. Just to kind of refresh for the board, Mr. Murphy as our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. And this was a new position that when I took the position of superintendent that we spoke about as a board last June, because of the need to try to centralize HR or human resource function. And Mr. Murphy has fit that bill tremendously. One of the things Mr. Murphy has been known to do when he was our high school principal was he developed human capital. He figured out how to make all people work for the benefit of students. And now he's taken that expertise, and you'll see some of the steps that he's made tonight, to work with all of our teachers, our custodial units, all of our different units to centralize that function and to really support the professional growth of all of our employees. He's done a fantastic job. Not only does he have a comprehensive understanding of how school works, but he has done a great job working between Robert's office, Jeannie's office, Nicole's office, my office, to make sure that we are all on the same page. So, Mr. Murphy, with that introduction, dazzle us,
No
please.
pressure. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Gavin and everybody. So, change is a fascinating thing. It can be draining, but it can also be an amazing opportunity. So a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight we were historically situated for on the precipice of things to start to evolve. So you can interchange the word change, evolve, or modify as you will, but this has been pretty exciting stuff. So anything that we talk about in the next 10 to 15 minutes is a sampling of the direction that the human resources procedure are going in. It's a snapshot, but it does give you a composite of the directionality. The things that we're going to talk about are informed by primarily three things. The Board of Education goals that Mr. Gavin established early in the year during our initial retreat, the feedback that we've currently received both in the climate survey through conversations with teachers and with students and staff, and our current economic and professional landscapes, as well as student needs, which are evolving, which was one of the more surprising but interesting parts of these changes as we're moving forward. So just understand that when we're talking about human resources, I might focus exclusively on teachers for a little bit, but because that is a more comprehensive look, just understand when we are talking about that, we're talking about all staff. Whether it's a teaching assistant, a coach, a teacher aide, a driver, a food service worker, all of which have very discrete needs, prerequisites, job responsibilities, as well as training moving forward. So it can be a little intimidating or overwhelming, but what we're looking at is currently a consolidation model, where everyone maintains their own discreteness, but we can have a more consolidated approach to bringing people on and the continuity of their training. Understand that everything passes through the primary filter, irrespective of your job responsibility, is the extent to which it improves student learning and wellness. That's it. It either does or it doesn't. That's the filter. The prior things that we talked about are what informs these decisions. There are filters that each change had to pass through in order for us to really invest time and energies into it. One, it had to be cohesive, because as the Board of Education goals and the dynamic has reinforced, we need to be one cohesive unit, separate schools, one consistent purpose, one collaborative effort. It has to be efficient. A lot of the questions that were asked from day one, and by the way, shameless plug, a special thanks to Mr. Bartels, Ms. Kathy Restaino, and everyone else who has taken their door off the hinge and let me walk in anytime I want, which has been a lot. There has to be an efficiency, meaning how much time are we expending on this given item, and is it commensurate with our return on our investment, and is it keeping us from doing things that would have a better return on our investment, meaning talking about instruction and student time. And the third thing is current. The system has to be in place, but it has to be subject to revisions on a perpetual basis. For example, the professional landscape for teaching right now is very different than it was 13 months ago, in terms of shortages, in terms of need assessment, and in terms of training that we'll talk about later. The system has to be able to adapt to meet those needs as they occur, as we find them. Also understand that there are different needs and different criteria for different units. The teacher recruitment process is very different from the OSA staff who passes through Nassau County Civil Service, is very different from a custodial staff who pass through CSEA and their unit. We're going to talk about a cohesive unit, but there are things that we're not in control of, and we need to accommodate those. Also understand that I didn't do this on purpose, but recruitment and the training process can be misconstrued as this linear sequence from you hand in your resume for an interview to you're working. From an employee perspective, that's true, but from a human resource perspective, it's not linear at all. It's actually recursive. It goes around in a circle. And so as we're talking about this, I'd like you to consider this more like a game of three-dimensional chess than a sprint from start to finish, because the different stages of recruitment, hiring, and training are going on concurrently. The model and the thing that we've been working on closely is how each of those stages are informing one another. In other words, is the interview process being informed in and reciprocate with the ongoing professional development that we're already learning? Are the onboarding processes, or those parts that we do with the staff member before they even come into their first day of work, time efficient and not redundant, so that they don't have to repeat questions and know where they can go for? So we're not going to go in a linear sequential model. We're actually going to start in the middle where I started. So it's in the middle of July where Mr. Bartels is getting me acclimated, and we're already onboarding a significant group of new teachers, a significantly larger portion than we have had in the past, which was a golden opportunity to take a look at this. Each individual staff member, before they even walk in the door, has a series of things that they need to accomplish that we need to collaborate. Logins and passwords for our online, for our computers, for our computer system. Gaining access to the iTeach network to make sure that their licensing is okay. To make sure that they've had the physical. Make sure that they're online and understand PowerSchool and our professional management system, Google Classroom. That they have access to Frontline, which is our absence management portal, as well as their professional development portal. Our security measures, whether they have a key, whether they have a side swipe, and they know the ins and outs of our new security system. Team network, who's their mentorship, who's their team, where do they go for resources, payroll, insurance, benefits, then they start learning. It's a lot and it's onerous. The question that we asked ourselves was, with all of this going on simultaneous and perpetual, is there a way that we can streamline the process and centralize it so that there's one-stop shopping, or at least a singularity where we can control and monitor it? Well, the answer is no, you can't. In large part because some of these systems have different levels of security. For instance, it would not be wise to have the payroll system cross-communicating with other portals. It makes it too vulnerable. Can we, however, streamline the process? Because a lot of the process is not involved in completing forms, it's being reminded of them. Did you remember to do your physical? Do you know where your password is? If my computer breaks down, where do I go? So we're working on several things simultaneously, and from here we're going to go forwards and backwards. The two things that we're working on is one is internal and one is external. The reason that we're doing it simultaneously is that some of this is a trial. Some of it will work better than others, and I'm already learning. So next month, we're going to implement two things, one of which is done by our technology department with, in collaboration with human resources. So this is our onboarding app. What it will be is a list of staff members. And as they come on board, they will be listed. And as we go to the right, each column will be a job requirement or a specification, whether it's a physical, getting keys to a building, completing their application, getting the health requirement, receiving their Chromebook, familiarizing themselves with the staff. When the person is quote-unquote onboarded, the notification screen lights up, and each of those departments receive a notification. Here's a new staff member. Do your thing. That staff member then receives notification. The following will be available for you. The reason the app is used is because it's synced with Microsoft Office, which is also the portal we use for emails and calendars. So as soon as they're onboarded, there's a process model internally where we can keep control and monitor what they're receiving, what they're not, and for any gaps. In my delusions of grandeur, this is foreseen not just for incoming staff, but also for transitioning staff. In other words, hopefully your career here is going to be a long one, but you're going to go through several stages. Maternity leave, you switch buildings, you switch responsibilities, you switch roles. As that occurs, your onboarding has to reoccur. There are different things you need to be, whether it's retraining, whether it's familiarity with New York State laws and regulations. Your license needs to be updated. All of that can occur through here. So when you switch the job status, so the onboarding process restarts. So that we're going to start implementing with the next cohort starting March, trial and error. The beauty of that system is that we're in control of it. So if we catch anything that needs modification or simplification, Mr. Lenny Hutchinson, who's an unsung hero, makes the modifications, and we'll learn as we go. The second one, you got it to work? Is,
Want me to put it up there?
yeah, please. It is something that we had pre-existing. Frontline is a portal that we use for absence management, for professional development, as well as our professional learning. We already use them as a portal, so we are experimenting. Well, we're more than experimenting, we're ready to implement what's called Frontline Central. It's a subsidiary of Frontline that deals with what they call human capital management. Human capital is not as a commodity, but our most treasured resource that deserves investment and safety. So during the onboarding process, they have an online system that does two things. Number one, it digitizes all our applications. So rather than doing the paper package that we traditionally do, this will create a folder depending on your job's parameters. An application, a place for your resume, a place for your tax forms, in one fell swoop. When you're hired and that onboarding process starts, you get it. Welcome to Southside, fill out these 14 things. The person doesn't have to be here. They can be doing it online, but that's their benefit, that it's one place. Could you just go back, or just click on one form? So there's an application form that is a digitized form, and then there's our form, the traditional form that you would normally see, for instance, on an appointment letter. So there's two different versions of this on the app. One is how you enter the information, and the other one is how we digitize it and store it. The goal of this is not just to digitize the information, but to develop a repository, an archive of employment history from the time you're interviewed, whether you got the job or not, to the time you're hired, in perpetuity. Number one, that creates a log history. I think at this stage, I'm fairly confident to say that I'm going to have to supplement Frontline, meaning that application link will have to go to a folder in Google Classroom, which is fine because that's a portal that we use. When the person submits a preliminary application, that will be dropped into a folder in the Google environment, Google Drive, with the name and date. English teacher, May 2024. The application, the resume will go in there, and then the teacher, the principal or the assistant principal will vet those and choose from there who they're going to hire. There's this process that traditionally starts with OLAS. The vast majority of our resumes are pulled from there, but we'll talk about that in a second. From there, the principal pulls resumes. We have an applicant pool, and from there in, we have a repository of the interviews, the finalists, and the paper trail. So the digitized Frontline system syncs with that, and now we have in perpetuity an archive, not just for convenience sake. From a principal's perspective, I'm embarrassed to say that it does occur that in 2020, I'm interviewing for a social studies position, and in 2023, I forget who I interviewed. To eliminate the redundancy or embarrassment of bringing someone in again, this eliminates that possibility. It also allows the middle school and the high school to cross-communicate, so they too have those folders, and we have a shared talent pool. That becomes even more important when you go to the elementary schools, when there is a more common talent pool. So that's exciting. I'm fairly confident that that's going to work. The extent to which Frontline can exist as an isolated incident or work with Google Classroom is really the thing. Please. So that's just really the onboarding and an example of economies of scale. In other words, can we make efficiencies so that we don't spend time researching, that we don't spend time looking? It's an example of one of the filters, but it's at the middle of things. As we're doing this, we look before and after in terms of the continuum. As I'm filling out this applicant pool, I'm starting to think of the interview process. Now, how many people have you known that were excellent teachers but froze on an interview? Or vice versa, people who just knocked your socks off. I mean, they talked the talk. They were just on their game. And then you saw them teaching, and it was anticlimactic, let's say. We're starting to look at the interview process to see if there are other ways, not just to onboard people, but to vet them as well, as part of a continuum that is directly related to the ongoing professional development and evaluation that all teachers see. Click. You are. Oh. I share Mr. Martell's has trained me well. So that's just a continuum. It's not particularly exciting, but it is a key to a lot of economies of scale. The question that's posed is we were with this cohort of brand new teachers is what should their evaluation process look like based on here and now? There are things that we are tied to. For instance, APPR, the annual professional performance review that New York State requires of some, but not all, instructional faculty. There are those who are not subject to it. We're tied to certain parts of that, but that does not hand tie us in terms of our professional development. The question was, how can we, as Mr. Gavin so often says, professionalize the profession, meaning treat people professionally, like the autonomous beings that they are, that they can make decisions and they can develop their own growth, but facilitate that process by surrounding them with the right resources, times, and standards, transparent and recursive, so that people are on their own developmental journey, but we're also facilitating and receiving back and forth. So the time has ended that we can just rely exclusively on OLAS as our place to go when we need new staff. It's static, it's increasingly competitive, and our needs are becoming much and more specific. So this is an example of digital technology being used to free us up for what we really should be spending time on, which is face-to-face interpersonal reactions. We have to go out more. We need to be out there more. For example, I've been working with my cohorts in a couple of other schools, and we've scheduled a recruitment fair in March at a local community college. It will go out to the local universities on Long Island and some in New York, with a select number of high schools with very, very, very specific needs. Again, putting our face out there to the major universities, which is an ongoing thing. You can establish a relationship with a college, but you have to know in about 2 years you're going to have to do it all over again because there is a significant turnover. But it's worthwhile, and getting our name out there so that applicants are thinking of us when we are receiving it. The other idea is to develop college relationships. I mean, we have a very ongoing, healthy relationship with Malloy. Mr. Gavin was over there today, and that is becoming strengthened, but also evolving because we're planting seeds with especially a couple of local colleges, such as Hofstra University. Their student placement recruiter was here in December.
November, end of November, right after Thanksgiving.
Close enough. And we talked about things like this. Wouldn't it be great if instead of student teaching, we developed a relationship with you and inherited a group of prospective teachers? We'll own them for the year and give them 2 graduate courses through practical work here, one in the fall, one in the spring, as well as student teaching, but there are hours for the year. Monday to Friday, 7:30 to, I'm not making that up. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was the product of a fellowship program where I signed a contract with a middle school in East Elmhurst. As a result of that, I got paid a stipend. I got my student teaching taken care of and 12 graduate credits. But the building owned me, and I mean that in the most positive sense of the word. And they got a look at an employee for 12 months to develop a really good composite. It was an amazing experience, exhausting, but the building also offered. In other words, in that school, they got to open up a virtual museum because they had tour guides for free. There's a lot of reciprocity that can go on. Can we use something like that as a template? Because times are changing. And as a result, we could develop a talent pool on our own and not only take them off the shelf, but develop a series of coursework that we know is relevant to here and now. It also makes sure that we extend our reach and make sure that we're getting the broadest and most diverse talent pool that we possibly can, that we're getting the best and the most well-trained. But what are we going to teach them? Right? So we have this interview process that's evolving based on what we know we're going to need, and then we have a teacher training program that is directly related now to APPR, which is the other part of human resources, right? Teacher observations, teacher evaluations. Okay, we're responsible for the form, but the process is ours. That we own. So, work with Dr. Moriarty and Ms. Love very closely over the summer. Why? Because a lot of the new teachers were in the special education field, and Dr. Moriarty wanted to experience a new teacher institute, because this is her thing. So we're doing our 4-day retreat with the new teachers, doing a 4-day institute that deals with practical work, the first 3 days of which are instruction. And Dr. Moriarty said, that's great, that's about a 10% of what they really need. So in comes a series of classes that the new teachers experience. It's a new educator series. Every other month, there's a workshop that will culminate in a professional portfolio where they're deciding the instructional research question that they're going to pursue for the next 3 years. As we're going through this, we are assigning the topics in year 1. These are the things that we know our instruction needs. It's 2022, post-pandemic, differentiated instruction needs to be defined, clarified, and has to be a non-negotiable. It goes early on. 2 hours ago, we finished a companion to that, inquiry-based learning, which is a cycle of questioning and problem-solving where the student takes more control of their learning and they come up with the answers. You're teaching them how to get the answer. That's a simplified version, I know. But as we're learning this, sure, they're getting things, but what we started to arrive at is that we are learning. We're developing a composite of what a new teacher is now. And we're going through it, and it's like, they have an odd, they're not the same. Like, they're super technologically advanced. I mean, thinking things 10 steps ahead, very bright. Dying to work in, like you say, all right, get in a group, and they're like, oh, thank God. They love working collaboratively. And then there's things that was like, yeah, I think we need to do that again. And then I forget who even said it at the meeting. I wonder what the student teaching was like. Oh. They're a pandemic group. They went to college through the pandemic. So they developed competencies that they had to compensate for based on their circumstances, as well as things that we need to impart, which are basically interpersonal and not communicative. And the learning curve is significant. Oh my God. Like the growth in one observation over 2 months is extraordinary. But we're developing a composite of interview questions that we know we now need to ask this year. So the discrete structures are not separate, whether it's an onboarding app or the New Teacher Institute, which is then informing APPR, which, you know, you say APPR to a teacher and they'll roll their eyes. But it's not a done deal. Yes, there was the formulaic part, but now we know a composite of the things that we're going to look for. So number one, transparency. Teachers are told, this is what we're looking for. Ongoing, right? The second part is a series of meetings that we have with administrators district-wide through the Human Resource Department that extends beyond the requisite of what they call inter-rater reliability. The district is accountable to make sure that my observations, Mr. Gavin's observations, and Dr. Walsh's are similar, meaning we're using the same criteria and the same standard. Fine. This year, we increased the presence of central administration in terms of number of observations by about 75%. So we're in the buildings a lot more. Number one, because we need to be in the buildings more. There's a lot more new teachers, and we need to develop a feel. It's begged a really good change opportunity, though. Inter-rater reliability is now harder, but it's also more transparent. So our first meeting early in the year is let's watch an observation. What would you give it? Agree or disagree? Fine. Second group of meetings. What do your observations look like? So if I'm John Murphy, a teacher, and I'm getting 3 observations at the end of the year from 3 different people, do they tell a story? Are they helpful, or are they contradicting one another? Because this is supposed to help the teacher develop, right?
Correct.
So the second meeting was to establish a set of criteria for the observation model. The written part, the evaluation part, and very specifically the feedback. What are you telling them? If you tell a teacher 15 things, you've just told them nothing. It's impossible. The third meeting, which is now getting into the nitty-gritty. So we've been halfway through the year. We've seen a few hundred observations. What are you noticing? Again, administrators in a room, are there characteristics that you're seeing as real areas of strength? Our teachers are really doing this really, really well, so that we can start to sample that. But are there areas that we now need to know we need further instruction, sometimes through no fault of their own, that this is a skill set that is now originating, like working collaboratively with another teacher in the room, right? So Ms. Love has been doing with special educators very specific, very discrete development on different models of co-teaching. Is that just for special education? I don't think so. We're living in an age where the door is now open. The days of working in a silo is ended. That has become a very discrete, separate skill set that is very current and is needed by every teacher. How do I do that? What's the other person do in the room while I'm talking? Are we all both talking all the time? How am I using that to increase student learning, like giving immediate feedback during the middle of the lesson? Which is part of a process that was started but is becoming more detailed due to the needs and the fact that we have a new team. So we need to learn one another and learn from each other. But it's a two-way street. So for the first time this year, could you click on the last hyperlink? We asked teachers what they thought of the evaluation process. So when I'm coming close to an end, so I will send not this, I'm coming in my observation cycle. I'm just getting warmed up. So when I get to the end of my evaluation cycle, all the teachers who I observed will receive the following. I need to know how it went. I need you to know, did what you receive on your observation help you professionally? Was it consistent with what other observers gave you? Were there things that were not covered in the post-observation conference that you felt we should have talked about? Are there things in the future that you would need? It's anonymous, and I'm not naive. I know it's not a level playing field. Asking a probationary teacher is very different than the tenured staff. I get it. But the fact that we're even asking changes the dynamic. It is a symbiotic relationship. So I'll let you know how that goes. So when Dr. Moriarty, who has already started planning for 23-24, because we already have a foot in that door, we're developing needs assessments on several different levels, from teachers, from student learning, from our seminars, from our onboarding, so that it's a real here and now and evolving. And it is very, very current, and it will change from year to year. But the system that's in place allows for that. Thank you. Done with that one. Okay, I'll fast forward. So this is the last one, I swear. So as we're doing that, and as we're looking at the professional community, we're also responsible for accountability and corrective measures. When behavior, opportunities, and professionalism aren't meeting our standard, sometimes that's through professional measures, whether it's training, behavior. There are any number of factors. But there's a significant number of evidence that suggests that in today's day and age, there are a lot of outside forces that are interfering and conflicting with professional duties, that are preying upon people through no fault of their own. We live in a very complicated world. For instance, almost half of our teaching staff are of the age where they are either thinking of or taking care of their parents. There are crises that come about that we could have used help. I'll give you a small example. When we did our first active shooter drill, I did it here at the high school and underestimated the impact that it was going to have on those who participated. We did have counseling on stage, but they were our counselors who helped them. Can we partner with, it's called an employee assistance program, for two reasons. Number one, to provide the health and wellness that we know teachers need to create a healthier community so that the students are experiencing a healthier community. Can we also partner with a program where there's a return on the investment, meaning if I do a seminar on elder care and I have 50 teachers who attended that workshop, that's 50 teachers who don't have to take time off or their own time to do so. There's a lot of research that suggests just in the mere having of an employee assistance program The return on investment for a district in terms of absenteeism, on-task behavior, and return far outweighs the investment. It's an investigation we started in October and that we're continuing, that I hope you'll consider in the months ahead. Now I'm done.
Mr. Murphy, thank you very much for that presentation. We can clap if we want to. Definitely feel free. A couple of points. Number one, the thing that sticks out to me is the idea of continual improvement. So you saw that theme with our goals and the systems that we're trying to put in through our board goals. You see it here about supporting our teachers' professional needs over time, continuous improvement, and then you see it within the new framework within which we are observing teachers. So one of the conversations that we've all had as a team is that idea about getting feedback from teachers about the feedback process. And I can tell you that it's sometimes unnerving. Mr. Murphy's not wrong. It's unnerving for me to talk to a tenure candidate and say, hey, by the way, at the end of this, I hope we're both a little bit better. But can you tell me there might have been something that I might have missed that you were hoping that I saw that I didn't? Or there might be something that you would look for the next time. The first time I asked it of a tenure candidate, they were like, no, everything's perfect. Everything's perfect. But that is a paradigm shift. They haven't been asked that before. And it's important that they understand that we're all trying to get better all the time. That there are systems in place for their professional growth that also reinforces our professional growth. And the example that I use all the time is that there may be something in your lesson that I absolutely love and will pass on as a suggestion to other people in a similar discipline or a similar grade level. And I think that's a really big piece. And Mr. Murphy's point about we have increased from central office 75% in terms of how many more observations we are doing has informed our conversation about professional development. It has informed our conversation about staff development, about recruiting, about hiring, you name it. So that we are already seeing the benefits of having multiple eyes on our teachers, and especially our teacher candidates and tenure candidates. The other thing that I would commend you for, Mr. Murphy, is your systemization of the process. One of the things that I did in my previous district was I oversaw a similar process, but we didn't digitize it. It was still relied upon when we hired somebody in that office had to tell somebody in this office, which had to tell somebody in this office. Now, there was a piece of paper that told you how to do it, but there wasn't a digital kickoff that allowed us to keep a record of who's done what, when, kind of thing. So I really appreciate the work that you've done on that. And the other thing that Mr. Murphy talked about that I want to reinforce is the collaborative nature of the team. We have really worked as a central office team and administrative team as a whole in the district to collaborate, to reinforce great ideas throughout all of our schools and all of our places. And I really appreciate the work that everyone has done on the team as a whole, from central office down to our assistant principals and principals. Thank you, Mr. Murphy and Madam President.
I had similar notes here, so I'll just run through my thoughts before I turn it over to the board. I love the fact, Mr. Murphy, that you started with the first slide and talking about the focus on the students and learning and all aspects of our district staff and everything under your new role and responsibilities, always coming back to what it's about, students and learning. So thank you for starting that, and that was something that was woven through your entire presentation. I love the statement that there's a difference between the form and the process, really important. And the fact that you're focusing on the process, to Mr. Gavin's point, is much appreciated. I also want to commend and thank the central administrators for being more present in our buildings. And I think that's really important work for all district administrators to be on the same page and for teachers to be part of that conversation, talking about professionalizing the profession. If teachers know that they're not going to, you're not coming in for a gotcha, but looking to grow them professionally, I think that's a really important message for everyone, and it's appreciated here. Asking the teachers for feedback on their observations, asking the question, like you said, changes the dynamic. So hopefully everyone will become more comfortable with that process, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from board members?
I'd just like to start by saying thank you, Mr. Murphy. I really appreciate all the care, effort, and time that you put into everything that you do. It's noticed, and as I said, very appreciated. I do have a couple of questions. The first relates to the interviewing process. I know in the past, we've had some issues with documenting, specifically at the panel level. I think we had discussed last year, talked about developing a rubric to ensure that we have documentation from the panel. Has any work been done surrounding that?
Right, so as we said, the professional learning, it includes all facets, whether it's a teaching assistant, an aide, or a coaching position, is to establish that criteria so that when we start this interviewing process, we have a very discrete structure in place.
Okay. The second question I had was surrounding observations, including the entire administrative team and talking about what are we looking for, what does good teaching look like. I wonder if you considered like a system using network visits with administrators going in as a real team.
It's very interesting that you brought that up, Ms. Messier. One of the things we talked about as part of this process when we had the administrators in for our training with Rob Aquino was the idea of going through and doing some walkthroughs around a centralized topic. Meaning, like, if, let's say we were looking for student engagement, what were the examples of student engagement? It would be something where a group of people would go around and look in different buildings, what is an example, and write down notes. Not evaluative notes, like, what did you just see in terms of student engagement, as it were? And then come back and take that information and put it into practice as part of, like, disseminating as part of the observation process. So we are having conversations about that. One of the things that's unnerving to teachers is when 27 administrators walk into a room. That might be a tad bit unnerving to some. So we're also trying to think about ideas where we would collaborate with teachers. So it'd be administrators and teachers walking in together in a non-evaluative way where we would be around a theme. There's a whole protocol for that. It's called walkthroughs. It's really cool.
Had one today.
Did you? Oh, great.
I did. I was part of one a few weeks ago. I was invited to attend at the elementary school, and I just found the whole process fascinating.
Yep.
And then they had theirs at the middle school today, and I was observed, which is great as well. I think it's an excellent process. I think it helps to really align the administrative staff around what are we looking for. And I also think it's a good way to remind teachers, what are our goals? What is administration looking for? What should I be doing on that kind of continual process? So I appreciate that system. On all ends.
I think that's the benefit of the co-teaching model too. It's the familiarity with having another adult in the room, which is part of the process. I've been trying really hard to make intervisitations just a commonality. It's also a skill set though. Just coming in and observing is one thing, but using the teacher, and if Mr. Gavin teaches next door, Matt, could you do me a favor and just walk in and I want you to keep track of the girls and the boys that I pick on when I ask questions. That's all I want you to focus on.
Right.
And if you teach that observable skill set, and I give you a discrete thing to look on, now I'm working professionally on a very specific thing. There is the drive-by, but then there's the pointed observation where I'm using you as a resource.
That will also play into as we develop. You saw the new teacher workshop. This is year one. So year two, this year, we're kind of spoon feeding a lot of material, right? Because it's year one, they're new teachers. There's a lot of things they go through the first time. Year two, we're asking them to be more involved in their own professional development. That could be something where the two of us that, let's say, partner up on a problem of practice, you ask me to come in, I'm a teacher, and I go look at you and give you feedback, and then you do the same for me. So there's that gradual release of responsibility where we're trying to make sure that our teachers know we're intentional with what we're trying to teach them, but at the same time, we want to make sure that they become more involved and autonomous in that process. And then that's some of the really exciting stuff that we've seen in a whole range of training, particularly today with our new teacher workshop. I happened to go for about 20 minutes, and the teachers were really engaged, having conversations all around the inquiry model. It was wonderful to see. But then I saw it again today when we did Rob Aquino training with our reading teachers and our math implementation teachers. Talk about a wealth of expertise. And the idea of how to get better. They were so enthusiastic. That's what I want to commend our faculty for. They're so enthusiastic about how to get better. I had one of the teachers on the way out tell me, this is like the best training I've ever had. And I don't think I want to retire anymore. So like, just like reinvigorating, I won't say who it is, reinvigorating that professional joy in what we do, I think is really important. And these are the structures that between our administrative team, we're trying to put in place, again, John said it, to professionalize the profession, right? How do we get better at what we do? Because what we do is really complex. It's really nuanced. We have 25 kids from 25 different environments that we're trying to give a certain amount of information and develop skills so that they can give it back or develop it in the next level. That's really complicated work, and it requires intention, forethought, and a lot of the training that we've been able to put into place.
I just had one last question with regards to teacher observations. I know a lot of emphasis is usually put on the after observation. What are we doing to address like domain 1 of Danielson's rubric with planning? Do we do pre-observations with teachers so that they can talk through their ideas, they can get constructive feedback, apply it, and then, so that reflection process is a lot deeper, I think, when you have that initial.
Some of it is idiosyncratic depending on the level and the building. For instance, at the high school level, all teachers hand in lesson plans every week. So that's the first thing that I would ask if I'm observing someone. I would ask that administrator send me the lesson plans and to see the planning that went on. The post-observation is asking the deliberateness of their instructional decisions. Why did you put the kids in group then? That, to me, addresses criteria 1. At elementary, it's different. Now, when I'm observing, the teacher sends me a lesson plan, so that's part of the lesson planning process. That can be addressed both there, but in the post-observation, the teacher articulating the decision-making process and why they made that decision, to me, is that domain. And that's where I would look into it.
Yeah, and just being a teacher, I feel like, especially as a tenure teacher, you have so many, limited opportunities to get constructive feedback because you're only getting 1 to 2 observations a year. I've always really found the pre-observation to be very meaningful for my practice. And I'm also wondering at the high school, if teachers are handing in lesson plans every week, is someone reading them and giving them feedback? Or is that more of just like you need to hand in a lesson plan?
Selectively, I'm not saying they're getting detailed feedback from every single plan that they hand in, but yes, they're all read, they're all authenticated. What I used to do is give grade level feedback because there's a teaming approach, and I'd make sure I'd hit at least 1 grade level per week so that the 9th grade team would get feedback, the 10th grade team would get feedback. So an economy of scale, yes, for my own time, but also to make sure that they're getting some form of reciprocity in terms of their investment in time.
And I think to follow up with my pre-conference, when I've met with all of our tenure candidate teachers this year. And as part of our pre-conference, one of the things we talk about is, let's talk about your plan and understand that if you're going to deviate from the plan for whatever reason, that it's intentional or why you would do that. So for example, you ask a question, it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. Did you come up with a follow-up question? How would you do that? And so I try to tell our teacher candidates as openly as possible, these are kind of the things I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. What's your plan? Did you execute it? If you executed something different, what was that reason? Let's determine that in the post-conference. And then there might be something specific. I'll say, is there something some piece of feedback you've gotten previously that you wanted me to look for? So if Mr. Murphy has observed you last year, is there something he said that resonated with you that you want me to see if you've incorporated that into your practice? And I get really great answers with that question. Sometimes, they're nervous and they say, I can't really think of anything right now. But for the most part, they'll turn around and they'll say, my principal told me X, and can you look to see if I'm talking too much and I don't have a high level of student talk kind of thing. So that was one of the examples that we have. But I think, that whole idea of us all working together to look for the same things and to to give feedback and get feedback in the same way, I think is emblematic of being a learning organization. We're not just an organization for learning, we should be a learning organization. And I think that's really important for us. And the systems we're developing, and by no means are we done. This presentation that's not it. We have a lot of work to do. Not bad work, good work. Work on improving systems to enhance all of our teachers to make it better for kids in the classroom. I capture that, John?
That's it.
All right, good.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. As usual, everything you do is meticulous, thoughtful, and analytical, and it shows in the way you presented it. I think we did get a letter from someone in the community this week that was asking about this position in particular, why we had it and how we didn't speak so much at public meetings about why we were considering this role that you've now taken on. And I think this presentation helps fill in a lot of those gaps. being on the board for 3 years, I think we've all discussed that in executive sessions sometimes, because it's related to personnel matters or something that's fallen through the cracks that we can't discuss in a public setting. Your role was very necessary for systems, for processing, to have a streamlined process with the human resources. Where most companies have it, we did not have a role like that. And it was very necessary, and I think it's evident from the way you've worked with the teams to then incorporate all the feedback, both from the teachers, as you've asked for observational feedback, from the surveys that we've had from our employees, and from the community, to work together with the team to use everything we have to streamline this process so we don't have things falling through the crack. There is a measure of why do we hire, how do we hire, how do we get the best people, how do we retain the best people, and how we work through all the kinks that we've seen, and I think this position is going to do that for us. So without getting into details that I can't get into, I think that's the main reason that we needed this position. So I thank you for what you've done so far, and I look forward to all the results in the future.
Thanks for everything, always. You're the perfect person for this position. You know our culture, you know our people, you know teaching, you know the students, so we're so happy that you're doing this. I'm so excited about the portfolio. I know that was something we talked to Mr. Gavin about in his interview process. Dr. Moriarty is familiar with it as well, and thank you, because being able to give our people opportunity to really create that portfolio and show their work and show what they've learned and what they do and how they make us better, I think is such a benefit to them and such a benefit to you as a human resources person. The Employee Assistance Program, I think with mental health at the forefront for our students, it should be at the forefront for our people as well. So I really love the addition of that too. Two questions I had. One is about more on the recruitment side. At what point, because you're so busy with a million things that you just mentioned, at what point do you get to be analyzing how we may be competitive out in the outer world? Because I think that there, certain specialty positions are hard to find. We, physics teachers or French teachers or Spanish teachers, whatever it is. And I know with teacher contracts and other things, there we have steps and ladders and all these things of how we enter people, but we've seen other people recruiting for positions pretty aggressively. OLAS can be slightly passive. I'm wondering how we analyze how we can be as competitive as possible to bring these people. And I love the idea of the college relationships, but I want to make sure that we are getting the best people here from the get-go.
Right, so the fact that we are extending ourselves is an admission that we do need to do more, right? But the fact that they're even in existence. And the information that I have is anecdotal. Monthly, we meet with human resource directors, and like today. I just, at the risk of overstating it, there are other areas that have much more significant shortage areas to this day on Long Island.
Correct.
Than teaching staff. Secretarial staff, significant.
Nurses.
Most districts
Yeah.
have
Bus drivers.
Bus drivers,
unfilled
nurses, that's
positions.
right.
Teacher aides.
Yep.
So, yes, it's consistent, but in terms of the on-reach, it is competitive. So there is a sharing going on, but you do want to be the first guy out there. So I have talked to Mr. Gavin about getting a little ahead of the game in terms of sending out those postings and networking.
Right.
Because, sometimes it's not the resume.
No, and we've had even issues in the past with being competitive, even for salary, with substitute teachers. And we found out that, if called in the morning, a teacher might be offered a certain amount of money here, or a certain amount of money at this other district, and of course, they're going to take the higher pay. So just that analyzing of what's out there, I think that intelligence is very important to us so that we can build our best kind of offer for everybody. It's not just teachers, but just, we saw that with nurses. We saw districts hiring at different salaries. We need the intelligence to come back into the district to inform our budget, to inform our, this board of what the real needs are and what are the challenges that you're finding. I think that that's really one thing we need from you is to bring back to us what you're finding out there in terms of your challenges. Because if we can't, as a district kind of support that, where will we be 5 years from now? At your best efforts, we won't be supporting you. So I hope that we can spend the time to do that along the way. The other part is on the retention side. I love watching that you have a portal for the HR purposes. Do the current employees, once they get past that onboarding app and utilizing that forms that they have to fill out, do we have our current employees using a portal system as well?
No, this is brand new. I mean, when we implement it, it will be from ground zero.
I think that that would be really something that we should make the investment into, because we talk here about policies, and then how do we share those policies with our employees to make sure that we're all on the same page. We talk about job postings and growing from within and making sure that our employees know that there's coaching positions available, that there's club positions available. Our portal could really be, and I know I utilize one at my own position, at my own job, and it really is very helpful for you to not just kind of be able to keep a place where your portfolio is or your forms, but just to be informed about what your culture is, like what's happening within your organization and how can you be a part of it. I think that that would be a great place for more information, more employee assistance, outreach, that type of thing. So I hope that we can look to utilize an employee portal for our current employees past the onboarding. And again, thank you very much for everything. I know you have a yeoman's task. It's a lot of employees, it's a lot of people that span many different types of positions, and you're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I think a word that I heard you say, and Mr. Gavin say a few times, is an investment, right? I love that we're investing in this position, in these systems, in these processes, all sort of come together to create the conditions for teacher excellence, for building great employees. And one of the ways, I think specifically, if we could go back to that slide that says interviews, consistent and specific based on our work, one of the specific ways that you are creating the conditions of teacher excellence, sorry, what's the next one? The new educator training?
Forward, right, there you go.
Yeah, so this 4-day retreat, and then it sounds to me that what this new educator training has done is sort of create a cohort, right? You mentioned that we've got a significant number of new teachers this year, and spread out across all of our buildings. What this process does is give them several opportunities over the course of the year to come back together, right? To remember, oh, we started the same day, and now look how far we've come. And I think we've learned probably one and done never gets the job done, right? That it's a consistency of meeting over and over.
It's been a lot of fun.
And they're fun to work with. You know, the new teachers are fun to work with.
And very, very, very young. Yeah.
And very what, young?
Young.
Young?
Yeah, and I think maybe that energy, and I like what you said about how we are looking at trends across observations. And I wonder if there's a way, and this is down the road, but I wonder with all of the new, particularly the special ed teachers that we have onboarded, that comes with a particular skill set, right? And when I think about how education has changed over the years, we didn't used to have terms for, I mean, we knew, dyslexia, but now we know about dyscalculia and apraxia, and some students' disabilities are clear and some are on a spectrum, right? And so how we can involve our special ed teachers in a professional development opportunity and sort of a growing towards a universal design for learning where everyone's aware of the various conditions in the classroom. Is that something we can work towards?
I think Jeannie's training, starting off with the team. It wasn't just the new special ed teacher that went through it. It was the team approach. So I think Jeannie had the foresight last year to set up the training this year so that they not only got a chance to think about each other's roles and the students that they're serving, but also how they're going to partner and team.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
It's
sorry.
also part of the MTSS training. I mean,
Right.
if you have 25 kids in a class and you have to memorize everyone's disability, that's one way to do it. But am I creating an instructional environment that's good for all kids, period?
Right.
So there's different ways of doing it, one of which isn't involving labeling the students. But yes, more awareness of what that disability entails, even though you might not see it, is separate but equally important, right?
And even though you might be a seasoned teacher who's considering retirement, all of a sudden there are new skills to learn, new ways to approach classroom learning.
Yeah.
All good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Okay, Mr. Gavin, the 2023-2024 district calendar. We're going to discuss it tonight, and then it will be an agenda item for action at the next meeting on February 2nd. If you can just talk us through that, please.
Sure. There was, usually I would like to do this on the first meeting in January, but New York State went back and forth, SED went back and forth about when the actual end or the rating day would be at the end of June. There was some, traditionally it's on a Friday. This year, because of the way all of the different holidays fell, they actually make the rating day for the 23-24 school year to be June 26th, which is a Wednesday. So it's an unusual end of the year, but those extra 3 days that they gave us allowed us some flexibility in the calendar that I think our residents will appreciate. For example, we are going to start school, the first day of school will be after Labor Day this year, which means that our kids will get a summer all the way through September 4th. Also, one thing that happens only once in about 20 years is that both Easter and Passover are nearly a month apart. That doesn't happen all the time. A lot of times they overlap, which makes our breaks easier to schedule. This calendar for next year has an Easter break with a long 4-day weekend at the end of March, and the full Passover break in April, which starts on the 22nd and then culminates on the 30th of April. So that allows for a little bit longer of a break. Our main concern when they originally had the end of school as the 21st of June was that it didn't allow us enough days to really have a full April break. And this allows us to have that full April break. And again, not have to start before Labor Day, not have to have kids come in for a day or two and then go out past that. So we're optimistic that this calendar does a lot of good for our families. It allows the people that, want to schedule different breaks or schedule different things to do so. And at the same time, it allows for a little bit more of a complete summer for next year. We are going, however, a little bit longer than we typically do in terms of we're not ending on a Friday, we're going into that subsequent Wednesday.
I see on the bottom here, it says sequence of days. Oftentimes when we're discussing the calendar, the question comes up about snow days and if they're built in. Sequence of days, we may lose an event of unexpected school closings. It would be in sequence February 23rd, 22nd, 21st, 20th, and then April 22nd.
Those are the days we would lose. But remember, we're not just talking, we have more than one snow day built in. So we would have to have how many snow days total, Robert, before we started eating away from days?
At least 4.
4. So we would have to have several pretty major events for us to close schools for 4 days before we
To
started
start
eating
going
into.
into that sequence, got it. And oftentimes staff will look, the first full day for staff and students is proposed to be Tuesday, September 5th, after Labor Day, as you mentioned. Staff, you have scheduled coming in for one superintendent's conference day on August 31st.
That's correct.
Okay. Any comments or questions from board members?
Just a correction, on the right side, it says Wednesday, August 31st. I think it's a Thursday. It also says Wednesday, September 25th. It's a Monday, just if we can make those
Yep,
corrections.
absolutely.
And can we assume Rosh Hashanah is falling on a weekend this year? I don't see days for Rosh Hashanah.
Yes, I do believe it's on a Saturday this year,
Okay.
or for Sunday.
Normally, we have 2 days for Rosh Hashanah, so if we could just check. to
September
make-
15th to 17th.
Okay, thank you.
I just had
So
one.
sundown on the 15th.
Sundown
So
on the-
So we
sundown
have
on
a
the
full-
15th,
sundown on
so
the
they go to
15th, so we
school
have
on
a
the
full
15th.
school day,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
I just had one question with the snow days on the bottom. In the event that we had to go into that February break, is there any way that those could be virtual school days? Or do they have to be students in school? Could that be a consideration?
That would be one of the things that the state is currently encouraging, that if you had to go into vacation, one of the options would be a virtual day. We haven't talked about that necessarily with the teachers' union at this point, but that's something that we would be able to consider. But again, we haven't, knock wood, I mean, we haven't really had 4 snow days in a winter in a while, which I just doomed us to a terrible February. Absolutely just did.
I would say
It's gonna
January,
snow
yeah,
for
say
a
it out
month. But, it was like 55 degrees today. So it's hard to think about, 4 or 5 days of snow where we would have to close schools. But again, when you make those decisions, you're trying to make safety first, right? So how are people getting to school and getting home in a safe fashion? That's the first thing. The second thing is, what are our provisions for the missed or lost time?
Thank you.
Anyone else on the calendar? Okay, so this will be an item for action on February 2nd, and we'll make those changes Mrs. Hackett pointed out. Thank you. Moving on to policies. At stage 1, we have 6213, probation and tenure. I'm going to ask Ms. Harvey to speak on this a little bit. There was an update to the law, I understand, so we have to update our policy to reflect the update in the law.
Yes, the policy is 20 years old. Several years ago, there was a revision. The main portion of it is tenure used to be after 3 years, it's now up to 4. There's information with regard to APPR, so the policy kind of brings the policy into date with the current law. This is an area also that there's not a lot of flexibility or revisions that we're able to make because it is in the law.
I just want to clarify for the board that we were in practice following the law.
Yes.
We're just updating a policy to make sure that we're coherent all the way through.
Sorry, I didn't want it to make anyone think that we were not following.
Thank you, Mara.
Any board members have questions or comments on 6213?
I thought I remembered something in one of the legal trainings that I went to about and I don't know if I'm saying the word right, is it the
Jurema.
Credit, yeah.
That if it wasn't in the area that the teacher was tenured in, there was some issue with that? Is that reflected in the policy?
Yeah, so everything is included in the policy, and even if it's not in the policy, it's in the law, and the law would apply.
Okay.
I also saw the language, Mrs. Farizani, that, remember when we attended that, it was
Yep.
in the tenure area, the way that it was
Yeah,
written, yeah.
Correct.
So there was some issues there where
Yes.
teachers were not in the tenure area, but then
Yes.
were getting credit as probationary. I was just concerned that we reflected that correctly.
Yep, so all of that is reflected here, yes. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay to move this to stage 2?
Yes.
Currently at stage 2, we have 3415. Sexual harassment. Any comments or questions here?
Same as last time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay to move this to stage 3?
Yes.
5681, school safety plans. Okay to move this as well?
Yes.
Yep.
7530, child abuse in an educational setting, child abuse and maltreatment. This is the one that we're merging.
Consolidating.
Okay to move this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And 7531, okay to move that as well?
Yes.
Currently at stage 3, we have 2150, travel reimbursement. Okay to move this for approval?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as listed on the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve board actions A through E as listed on the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Next meeting will be February 2nd, and that will be a regular meeting. Have a good night.